Travis Wayne Goodsell. I have Stargate, the extended version, arriving in about an hour, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. But I thought of a new video approach, so I was going to do that. The reason why I'm getting the extended version, because obviously I already have the movie, and Stargate SG-1, and Stargate Atlantis, Stargate Universe, all of the other movies, and Stargate Origins. Yeah, I got it all. Stargate is my favorite, which beat out the Time Machines, the original 1960 movie version. H.G. Wells' The Time Machine. I like the other one, the reboot, with Guy Pearce, only because it's The Time Machine, but it didn't do better than the 1960 version, not because Weena is more to my taste than Samantha Mumba, but I do love her songs, though. I'm not going to sing them. But the reboot version has an interesting twist on why he wants to go into the future and why he invented the time machine. And that was to try to save his fiancée from that fateful proposal night. And so yeah, that does bring tears to my eyes, which makes it difficult to keep going. But I prefer the original one, as it ends with him selecting 3 books to take back with him to rebuild a civilization after their apocalypse. And so the video that I'm going to do here is help Mormons how to argue their position, because Mormons are getting their butt kicked, as over 11 million active membership have gone inactive. You know, the retention rate is very poor in the church. Not just the new converts retention rate, but the born and raised generational Mormons also have up and left the church. Could not be maintained and retained. And the church obviously is struggling to figure out how to get them back. Honesty, honesty, honesty. And confession of guilt, so that you can then move on and hope that there will be people who will be willing to stay with you after you confess all of the horrible sins and darknesses of the previous leaders. But they choose not to. And so Mormons, in response to those who say, I heard this about the church, I heard this about that, and this about so-and-so, Mormons respond getting angry. Oh, you're trying to be critical. You need to listen only to the prophets. You should only read Mormon literature and don't go searching around the internet to all the fake news. Well, people are smarter than Mormons give them credit for, and that's why they don't join. That's why 11 million Mormons up and left. And you can't abuse people to force them to believe in the church. That never works. Just as a hint. And Mormons even attack me, and likewise. You can't gaslight me, Mormons. I'm not going to go, oh, you're so right, How could I have been so wrong all this time? Oh, you caught me as the Antichrist Korihor, as people have called me, as I've done videos on as well. And I had a Mormon woman, elderly, older than me woman, at least that's what her thumbnail picture on her channel is, shows, who said, I sound like the false prophet. On the very video where I went over the whole false prophet thing, that you know them by their fruits. The fruits reveal their belief systems. The fruits are the consequences, the results, the finished product. And so if the fruit is spoiled and rotten and horrible and evil and causes harm, then you know that the seed was bad in the first place. So likewise, a person's actions lead to certain results that are harmful to other people, such as Nelson saying, hey, let's have a coronavirus fast, and then decided to open up church and temple and missions, and the cases in Utah continue to skyrocket. And so we know from the end result of the increase in coronavirus cases that Nelson, his original word of coronavirus fast to cure it, is false. He's a false prophet. It's that simple. And Mormons already are furious. Nelson is the true prophet, you're the false. They cannot make the connection to what the scriptures are teaching us about beliefs, when acted upon, produced consequences. That's what I went over in that video. And yet the woman, she's still, you sound like a false prophet. All she had was my word. She didn't act on my word. She was an unbeliever. What does Alma specifically state when talking about applying the word to see if it's good? Don't cast it out by your unbelief. Oops. Sounds like somebody didn't read their Book of Mormon. That's how you do it. And so, how can Mormons argue soundly so that they can put me to shame, so that they can confound me? Because I'm the one confounding Mormons. And Mormons think they're confounding me by saying, oh, you're banning people who are telling you the truth, and you can't handle the truth, and that's why you ban them. Why don't you let them go through so that all can see how you're a fool? Yeah, well, first of all, it's abuse that I ban. If you're being abusive, I ban you. If you're just incorrect or you have misinformation, I will just delete your comment if you're not being abusive. Otherwise, I will let your comment go through, and we will have a proper civil discussion. And unfortunately, all it ends up being are those who agree with me, who we get to have a discussion with. So hold on just a second while I take care of this. Oh, not you. You. There you go. And so, how can Mormons soundly defend the church without causing contention? Because when Mormons attack with an ad hominem, Mormons are the cause of contention. And who loves contention? Lucifer loves contention. That's right. Just criticizing the church is not contention. It's argument, but it's not contention. An argument, if you've taken debate or know of debate, it's a position that you take. And an argument has a form that is required in order to be sound or unsound. If it's sound, it's logical. If it's unsound, it's fallacious. And what is required is premises that, when combined together, lead deductively to the conclusion. And so Mormons are completely unaware of any of this. There are those who think they know, as they throw in an ad hominem or some other fallacy, like a straw man fallacy, and ruin their claim to knowledge of logical argument. And so let's test it, shall we? Travis Wayne Goodsell claims that Joseph Smith is a translator. Now, as Mormons, they can't believe me. I'm wrong, because the church has officially come out in the gospel topic essay, Translation and Historicity of the Book of Abraham, that Joseph Smith never claimed to be a translator. He received revelation, the gift and power of God. And so making that claim and putting it on their website, they are in direct conflict with my claim that Joseph Smith is a translator. Which one of us is right? Which one of us is wrong? Or are we both wrong? There is no both right option. And so, do Mormons have a vote? I vote that Travis is wrong. Sorry, that's a fallacious argument. Facts and truth are not determined by vote. It's called an ad populum. The majority of us have decided what truth is going to be, or exclusive truth. It's our truth as Mormons. And so therefore Travis is wrong. That's also wrong. That's fallacious. And so this whole movement that's been going on in our society of my truth. No. No. That's a philosophy of the world, which Mormons know all about. If they only understood, they aren't supposed to be using it. Mormons also use that. My truth. And so let's get right down to it. What is the claim that I'm making? Joseph Smith is a translator. Am I just saying it without anything to back it up? No premises. I'm just throwing it out, like a QAnon supporter, just throwing out an accusation. Joseph Smith is a translator. You're an anti-Mormon, Travis. You're just trying to cause contention. You're trying to destroy the church. You're a core. No. I followed the Book of Mormon. Mormons. Remember Alma? Not casted out by your unbelief? Guess what I did? we have the Book of Abraham. I wanted to know, how did Joseph Smith translate it? Which one applies to facsimile number 3? Because I can't find anywhere in the Book of Abraham text that it applies to facsimile 3. I sort of caught on that chapter 1 directly refers to facsimile number 1, and chapters 3 through 5, the rest of the book, seems to refer to facsimile number 2. But what about facsimile number 3? Nobody can give me an answer. Not even those who claim to know. And so, having grown up in a hardcore Mormon family, to just let it go without knowing is unacceptable to me. I must know. Nobody will hold it back from me. This is a religion. This isn't top secret military operations to go and destroy another country. It's religion. It's church. There are not supposed to be any secrets. They're all exposed and revealed in Scripture itself. Love. That's religion's plot. It's not a secret. It's right there in Scripture. Love one another. And so the adversary knows this. And the Scriptures also tell us that the adversary knows this and tells us what the adversary's plan is. His plot. Hate. It's not complicated. And so there are no secrets in religion. They're not supposed to be. If the leaders are keeping secrets, then something's wrong. Something's very wrong. You see how I argued that? And so if anybody's been paying attention, I'm the decipherer of Egyptian petroglyphs. Because the critics are Egyptologists who looked at the papyri, read through the text, because they can translate the text, and say, we can't find the Hebrew word Abraham in this Egyptian text. Notice I didn't talk about petroglyphs, because if you know Egyptian, you know about Gardner's Egyptian alphabet and grammar with sign list. Well, go ahead and find the signs in the petroglyphs in any of the facsimiles. You'll find a few of them, like the plants in the first facsimile, but you won't find Anubis. Huh. Why? Where's Anubis? What about Osiris as a mummy? There is a general form, but not for Osiris. And so on and so on. I can't even find the lion altar, and people call it a bed, and that's technical details. It's an altar, because you place the deceased on it like you do a sacrificial offering. He's deceased. Sacrificial offerings are deceased. And so yes, the preparation table is the equivalent of an altar. And regardless, you won't find a good number of the petroglyphs in the sign list. And the reason why is because the Rosetta Stone taught Egyptologists Egyptian. That's all they know. They don't know anymore. If it's not in text, they can't identify it as a translation. They can say, oh, well, that's Anubis, that's Osiris, that's the Bawbird, and there's supposed to be the hawk for Horus, and that's an alligator, Sobek. They can do that, but they can't translate it. They have no clue how to do that. Nobody's taught them, nobody's learned, nobody's deciphered Egyptian petroglyphs until me. And I was able to do that because I'm the decipherer of Paleo-Hebrew. And so when I say Joseph Smith is a translator, all of this that I've done is what I'm referring to. And I don't have time in each and every single video to go through what I just went through and include more detailed, go through the whole published work of the Egyptian or Paleo-Hebrew script and all that. Take too long. I'd have to spend hours of video going over it with you. And then finally at the end, do the whatever video topic I'm going to talk about. Wouldn't work. And so when you come to my videos, there's prerequisites that's understood. That when I say something, you can't just say, you're wrong, Travis. Joseph Smith is not a translator. The church is true. He was a revelator. Because you make the mistake of leaving out my premises. You're supposed to go after my premises, not my conclusion. If you go after conclusions, that's like Bible bashing. That's what it is. As one religious person says, this is the conclusion of this passage, the other person says, no, this is the conclusion of that passage. And they just bash back and forth of their conclusions. That's also a fallacy argument. You have to go and find the error in the premises. The premises will tell you whether the argument is sound or not. And if somebody can find the weaknesses in my premises, then yes, I will have to listen. Because I'm already doing it. Right now, I'm doing it. As I go over in my mind the things that I went over. As I went over the different characters in facsimile number 1. I'm always fact-checking myself to make sure that my decipherment is correct. Because I haven't built on it with the vocabulary in full yet. And so I've been slipping in vocabulary keys for you every now and then to help you understand that I've already done the work. I just have to publish it. And publishing is huge. It's packed. And if you don't understand why it's packed, there's a lot of information you guys are missing. And so, from my viewpoint, Joseph Smith is a translator. And when Dr. Rittner is interviewed by John DeLynn, I'm able to listen to him and go, yeah, sure enough, he has no clue how to translate Egyptian petroglyphs. He has knowledge, as a doctor should, in Egyptology, but it's lacking because it's limited to what Jean Champollion was able to accomplish with the Rosetta Stone. And that's it, and that's all. That's all Egyptology knows. And so I'm able to make a comment saying, hey, yeah, you're missing some important things here. But the most amusing is that Mormons get punked by Egyptologists when they say, we can't find the Hebrew word Abraham in this Egyptian document text. You're never going to find it. I mean, yes, there was that one other item that had Abraham in, is it Coptic? With a bed thing. John Gee was all over that. But that's not the Egyptian papyri. Just because he found some other thing that supports the Egyptian papyri that Joseph Smith makes a claim to, doesn't mean that the two are the same. Because in that other thing that John Gee found, yes, it's clear, the text says Abraham, but not in the Egyptian papyri. And so John Gee is making a fallacious argument by saying, well, we found it here, therefore it's true here. Can't do that. But nobody knows Egyptian petroglyphs and how the Bible used the Egyptian petroglyphs to tell their story. And Paleo-Hebrew comes from Egyptian characters. And so if there's anybody going to be complaining about my ridicule of Nelson for listening to Hebrew scholars tell him a completely bogus translation of Israel, I already am prepared, guys. Again, you don't know me, which means you don't know my premises as to why I'm making this conclusion. Because if you attempt it, I will immediately throw back at you, why does Isaiah not define Emmanuel like Matthew does? When was Matthew written? When was Isaiah written? Why does Matthew not say it? Now, the original Isaiah texts do not exist, but Isaiah is supposed to have been around 700 BCE, which is right as the Assyrians are taking over. So he's right before warning the northern Israelites, hey, Assyria's coming. Then they come, and then he goes, I told you so. So that's Isaiah. But it's written, the document we have is post-Babylonian captivity, if not even much later than that. Or earlier than that. But if you're going to try to make a claim that Roman period or Dark Age period Hebrew is to be the definition of Israel rather than Paleo-Hebrew for Israel, you got another thing coming. And that's what Hebrew scholars are not factoring in. The Hebrew text of the Bible, though the closest match to the Dead Sea Scrolls, which are confirmed to be around the 0 time period switch over 1 BC to 1 AD, it still doesn't establish that their translation into English, or as understood by the Jews, is the translation as understood by the Dead Sea Scroll Qumran community. Because they went and added a whole bunch of vowels, a whole bunch of vowel points, and fixed the translation to only one translation. And so with Matthew, there are some anachronisms in there that help us understand when it was written. And it's after Constantine. As much as people want to place it as close to Christ as they can, assuming that Christ was even a real person and not an apocalyptic literature for the last days corresponding with the date that they all give, which is 23rd September 2017, sign of the Son of Man. So, yeah, that's how you argue, Mormons. With Egyptologists making claims that Joseph Smith is not a translator, you don't argue, well, you're stupid, he's a prophet of God. It doesn't hold any water with them. You're not going to convince an Egyptologist they're wrong. You know, John Gee finding some other thing that has Abraham in Coptic still is not going to convince them that they're wrong about the Egyptian papyri. But I, however, knowing how Joseph Smith made his translation, having been the decipherer of Egyptian petroglyphs, having been the one who discovered that the Bible stories come from translations of the Egyptian petroglyphs, I know Joseph is a translator. I know his errors that he makes. I know what he's missing and what needs to be added to Joseph Smith's work, not just with the book of Joseph, but also within the book of Abraham. And so, yes, I know exactly what facsimile 3 is referring to. So, alrighty. Argue right, Mormons. If you're gonna confound me, argue right. Because you guys are getting slaughtered. And it just doesn't do you any good. You can't hang on to the church to your dying breath. It's true. I know it is, because I believe. I have feelings, and those feelings are the Spirit. Yeah, you got punked. You got punked big time.